welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 155, and today's date is September 5th, 2013, and the title of this episode is Tension Builds Between the U.S., Russia, and now China. And we can see tension is definitely building in the Mediterranean. Russians have brought in more ships, the U.S. are bringing in more ships, and China says they are going to join everyone in the Mediterranean with ships. And the central bankers, U.S. government, they are maintaining control in the Middle East. They are forcing all the countries to use the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. And how are they forcing everyone? By drone strikes and military might. And they need to get into Syria and into Iran to control their natural resources and to put them on the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency and to set them up with private Western central banks to keep the dollar going a little bit longer. If they don't do this, the dollar collapses. And if the only way they know how to do this is by war. So this really helps them in two different ways. At least they think so. It will start a war to cover up this collapse that we're going to have, and it's allowing them to try to capture the natural resources of Syria and Iran. And you have to remember, they've been trying to get into these countries for 25 plus years now. But let's get into the economic collapse news, and we'll talk about the war and what is going on. But in Cyprus, Parliament rejects a condition for a bailout. Now, to get the additional money that Cyprus needs, they made a deal saying that all supervision of the cooperative banks would be under direct control of the central bank. And it looks like Parliament in Cyprus rejected this. Right now I don't see why they are rejecting this, but it could be maybe Russia is having talks with them and helping them out with their debt problem. But as of right now, they do not want the central banks to control and be under direct supervision at this point. Now, in the U.S., I spoke about this before in other reports, retailers for back-to-school sales saw disappointing sales numbers, and sales were not what they thought they were going to be. So to counteract this, they decided to use deep discounts and put almost everything on sale. And what is happening is they had to lower the prices by so much that their margins are so small on the products that they are making more sales, but the amount of money that they're bringing in is a lot less. So in the mainstream or corporate media, they are showing better sales but less profit. And Costco is saying that their electronic division and other divisions, except for food and health, they are all doing poorly. And again, when people are on budgets and people have a certain amount of income to spend, they normally spend it on medical. They normally spend it on food, things that they actually need. A TV they don't need. A new camera they don't need. A DVD, a book they don't need. And that's why we're seeing those type of items not doing well at this point. And we can see this, and this is quite evident from other stores like Best Buy, like Radio Shack, JCPenney, GameStop. They're all reporting sluggish sales at this time. Now, there was a report that there's huge layoffs coming up in August, but don't worry, they were planned, and it's about 50,000 layoffs this month, which is up 33.8% from July. And the report went on to say that heavy job cuts in the industrial goods sectors are never a good thing, as they are an indicator of widening cracks in the economy's foundation. Now, again, in the corporate media, we are seeing that the biggest 2 week drop in initial claims, the unemployment is looking much better, and we have to remember that the calculations that they are using are manipulated. The unemployment calculations were changed as of 1994, and they are continually manipulating the numbers. They do not count the people who are no longer looking for work because there's just no work out there. And there are a lot of people who have taken part-time jobs which are being counted as someone having a job. And if you get another part-time job, now those are two more jobs. So these numbers and these statistics that they come out with are all manipulated. And also they manipulate the GDP numbers, they manipulate inflation. And we can see that they are setting this up for what is coming this fall. They're using the illusion that the economy is getting better. So they're putting it out there again, and the Gallup poll is showing that unemployment has gone up, but the BLS numbers are showing that it's getting better. And if we use the calculation prior to 1994, it shows that it's getting worse. And they are using this because they are setting the economy up to have something happen this fall. So the propaganda is housing is doing well, stock market's doing well, unemployment's going down. It's time to taper. It's time to pull back because we are right on the precipice of recovering. And when the fall hits, some type of an event they will use to say we were about to recover, but because of this event, the economy is now collapsing and now we have problems. And you can see they are just completely doing this. And JP Morgan is now not giving student loans. So let's see what they've done. They're no longer selling, they're in the commodity market. They're getting rid of that. They're laying off tons of people in the mortgage industry to close down their mortgage operations. Now they're not giving student loans. So what is going on here? Why is all this happening? Is this a build-up to something that they don't want to tell us about? Now, on the opposite side of the globe, China and Russia agreed to terms of a multi-billion-dollar gas deal. The long-awaited major gas contract between Russia and China is close to being sealed. The nation's energy corporations signed a string of agreements on energy cooperation on Thursday. And guess what? They will not be using the U.S. dollar to trade the energy in at all. So they're bypassing the U.S. dollar. And China and Russia are making these agreements with many different countries to bypass the U.S. dollar. Now, at the G20 meeting, Putin said a couple of things there, and he went on to say, we need to return to reestablishing world economic growth. And Putin said that. The U.S. economy is growing, but unfortunately growth rates are lower than what we might have hoped for. Foremost, the U.S. will need to find a balance between fiscal consolidation and growth stimulus, a decision many accept to come this September when the Federal Reserve meets to decide if it will begin tapering the country's $85 billion per month bond buying program. And he went on to say that cash handouts cannot go on forever. The world's advanced economies are beginning to exit their current stimulus policies, which can bring negative consequences. We need to mitigate those unwanted consequences, but first of all, our task is to stimulate economic growth and job creation. To me, he's letting everyone know when this is being pulled back, there are going to be many problems. Do I think they're going to pull back? No. I think they know what the consequences are. They've tested it by the Fed saying we're going to taper a couple months ago, seeing the market decline, and they realize that if they pull back and stop giving this money to the banks will not be funneling this money into the equity market, and the equity market will start to decline very quickly. Then other people will start to get out of the equity market. And you have to remember, their whole gauge of a great economy is everyone looking at the stock market. And I said a couple days ago, and I said in many reports ago, they will not let gold go up. Every time you think it's going up, expect it to be smacked right back down. They are trying to maintain the illusion that everything is getting better. If gold started to rise by 100, 150, 200, 300, the illusion would disappear. People would think something is up, and they would be right. But if they see gold being pushed back down, it goes up, it comes back down a lot. It goes up, it comes back down a lot. People don't think about that. If they see the stock market continually staying up around 15,000 and going into the green, they're happy. Everything looks good. Everything's fine in the economy. The unemployment numbers are coming down. They need to keep the illusion a little bit longer. They're starting the war to cover this entire thing up, and this war is not going to go well. I mean, there's warnings from China. There's warnings from Russia. There's warnings everywhere. And we see what's happening in America with DHS. We see that they're talking about cyber attacks. We see they're making the case of trying to remove the rights from the people, and they are pursuing removing the Second Amendment and removing the guns from the people because they know what is coming. Now, the other thing that they have going on is Obamacare, which is something that is completely not for the people. If something is for the people of the United States, you do not have to penalize someone for not taking it. They would do it because they realize it is good for them. You wouldn't have to sell it. And businesses, people, even Congress is realizing Obamacare is a freaking nightmare. Businesses are cutting jobs to part-time, trying to keep the hours of employment under a certain mark. Forever 21 is doing it. Lowe's, they're hiring permanent people, but they're all temps. And this report goes on to say more than 250 employers have cut work hours, jobs, or taken other steps to avoid Obamacare. Now, they're doing this because Obamacare is a monstrosity, and we saw the perfect example of the staffers in Congress complaining that it's too expensive. Can you help us out? So President Obama said, okay, no problem, and bailed them out and paid for it. Who's going to bail out the American people when they're strapped with these costs of this Obamacare? And even if you don't want it, you will be penalized and taxed. So this is definitely not for the people. Now, Japan wants to change their guidelines, and they want to readjust how they're able to strike another nation. The defense minister indicated Tuesday that he'd like to revise the bilateral security guidelines with the United States and help them define a different way that they are now allowed to strike a nation if necessary. And I've said this before. This was Article 9. They wanted to be stop being a pacifist nation, and they wanted to have the ability to strike if they could. And this goes on to say that Japan would like to jointly consider with the United States how the two countries can complement each other regarding the issue of Japan maintaining a capacity to carry out such attacks and how the issue can be defined in the guidelines. Because they realize what is happening is they don't have the ability to go out and strike another nation if they had to. without, I think it's the permission of the U.S., so they want to reorganize this guidelines. They have also created the largest warship since World War II, and they are preparing, which everyone knows at this point, of World War III that is coming, because what is happening all around the world. Now, this whole Syrian chemical weapon entire thing that's going on, where the U.S. says they have this evidence that they cannot show you, they have communication which they cannot reveal, and they have samples where they can't tell you where they've come from. Someone has come up with, and I have it on the x22report.com site, of different claims the administration has made and questions about these claims. So claim number one, the administration claims a chemical weapon was used. The UN inspectors are still completing their independent evaluation. And the questions, who from the United States was responsible for the chain of custody? Where was the laboratory analysis conducted? Where are the reports? Claim number two, the administration claims the opposition has not used chemical weapons. Which opposition, this says? Has the administration considered the ramifications of inadvertently supporting al-Qaeda-affiliated Syrian rebels? What about the UN reporting that the rebels used the chemical weapons the last time? Claim number three, the administration claims chemical weapons were used because the regime's conventional weapons were insufficient. Who is responsible for conjecture that the reason chemical weapons were used against the Damascus suburbs is that Assad's conventional weapons were insufficient to secure large portions of Damascus? And I have to say, they're conventional weapons that they used to push the rebels back out of all these areas, plus to crush the paid mercenaries that were trained by the U.S. forces in Jordan. It seems like their conventional weapons are just fine. Claim number four, the administration claims to have intelligence relating to the mixing of chemical weapons by regime elements. Who saw the chemical weapons being mixed from August 18th on? Was any warning afforded to the Syria opposition, and if not, why? Claim number five, the administration claims intelligence that Assad's brother ordered the attack. Who made the determination that Assad's brother ordered the attack? Based on which intelligence? From what source? Claim six, the administration claims poison gas was released in a rocket attack. Who was tracking the rocket and the artillery attack which preceded the poison gas release? Has forensic evidence been gathered at the scene of the attack which would confirm the use of rockets to deliver the gas? Claim number seven, the administration claims 1,429 people died in the attack. Secretary Kerry claimed this. Where did he get these numbers? From what source? Claim number eight, the administration has made repeated references to videos and photos of the attack as a basis for military action against Syria. When and where were the videos taken of the aftermath of the poison gas attacks? And just a point to this, if you look at a lot of these videos, they've been hit with something. But again, I still go back to, why aren't they wearing hazmat suits? Why don't they have masks over their face? Why don't they have gloves on? There's a lot missing, and especially those medical caregivers who have beards and put the masks on themselves to protect themselves. Can you really get a good seal with hair in the way? Shouldn't you have to shave your beard to get a good seal on the mask? That's a question there. Claim number nine, the administration claims a key intercept proves that Assad's regime complicitly used the chemical weapons in the attack. What is the source of this transcript? What was the exact time of the intercept? Was it a U.S. intercept or supplied from a non-U.S. source? And claim number 10, the administration claims that sustained shelling occurred after the chemical weapons attack in order to cover up the traces of the attack. Please release all intelligence and military assessment as the reason for the as to the reason for the sustained shelling, which is reported to have occurred after the chemical weapons attack? And how does shelling make the residue of sarin gas disappear? And these are some of the points. And again, the U.S. has not shown anything. And yesterday I reported that General Dempsey said that it was going to take about 75,000 ground troops to secure Syria's chemical weapons facilities. And this plan was actually created back in February of 2012. They already knew about this. They already knew how much it was going to cost and how much manpower they were going to need before they even decided to use this chemical attack as crossing the red line. This has been planned for a very long time. They already knew to send off the ships before August 21st. They sent off the trained mercenaries on August 17th. They already had an established base in Jordan and already prepped for war with Syria, and they've left the training military assets in Jordan because they knew that eventually they were going to use some type of false flag to start this war because, again, they have no choice but to do this. Now, Cyprus, and I reported this either last episode or 2 episodes ago, the Russian government made a deal with Cyprus to restructure their loan and to help out with their debt. And today, Cyprus Parliament passes a resolution against Syria intervention, and the resolution is asking that the British bases not to participate in any way in military operations in the Middle East or anywhere else. So they are stopping them from using the bases there to fly out B-2 bombers, for the U.S. B-2 bombers, drones, or the Typhoon jets that the British have over there. Now, Senator Jim Inhofe, or Einhoff, went on to say that he believes that he opposes the military intervention in Syria because a prolonged conflict in another Middle Eastern country would lead to the decimation of our military. And he went on to say, today we can afford to launch 30 cruise missiles into Syria, but we cannot ignore that such an attack on another country is an act of war, which it is. Syria has never attacked the U.S. If we, the United States, fires any type of weapon into Syria, we started a war. This is an act of violence against another sovereign nation. And realistically, the military right now is spread so thin, the United States cannot afford another war, especially this type of war. Now, a couple episodes back, I'd said Putin would like to send, some congressional Russian delegates over and talk to the Congress, and of course, the Speaker of the House does not want to meet with any Russian delegation, and he rejected to meet with them. Russia has compiled their own 100-page report blaming Syrian rebels for a chemical weapons attack. And it says that it has evidence that Syrian rebels, not forces loyal to President Assad, were behind a deadly sarin gas attack in Aleppo suburb earlier this year. And it also goes on to say the Russian statement warned the United States and its allies not to conduct a military strike against Syria until the United Nations had completed a detailed scientific study on the August 21st attack. And we see the tensions in the Mediterranean building up. The United States and the central bankers want to go to war, and they, if you notice, all they're doing is pushing war. They're not pushing peace. They're not pushing, let's sit down and talk about this, or let's dig and find out the real information. They're telling us information that they're not allowed to present to the United States people, and they just continually using words, and it's bringing back memories of Iraq to me, that they have these weapons of mass destruction, and we need to go in there, we need to go in there, we need to go in there, and all they're doing is brainwashing. China is now getting involved. They are officially back Russia on Syria, and what's happening now, Chinese news agencies are reporting that several Chinese ships are already close to the shores of Syria to join the Russian fleet. And Russia is now boosting the Mediterranean fleet. First of all, to show the United States that we are going to protect Syria, even though they're not saying it, they're putting them there to act as a deterrent, and plus they're saying they're using this to evacuate their nationals if they have to, if something happens. And from what we can see in the Mediterranean now, there are 5 destroyers. We have the San Antonio with the 800 Marines on there. We have 2 U.S. subs and a British sub there. There's the Russians have a missile cruiser, an anti-submarine ship, and they have 2 destroyers, 2 amphibious ships there already, and the U.S. also has 2 other aircraft carriers being deployed to the Gulf. And a while back I said there's other ships that are left port and they're en route but destination unknown, and we probably will be seeing more ships join in this area. Now Obama is realizing that the House is looking at a no vote for this encounter with Syria. So he is canceling his LA trip because he needs to go back and make his case of why the United States needs to get into this war and why we need to send American men and women over there to die for paper and ink. Because that's what this is all about, is getting over there to capture the natural resources, to make these governments use the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And we can see there is a backlash with the military. They're starting to realize that, no, we're done here. We don't want to go to war. So we also see that the United States declared on Thursday that it gives up on trying to work with the United Security Council on Syria, because what they're realizing is they're not going with what the United States wants. The UN is not saying go in and attack. They didn't give them resolution to do this. They do not want to see the evidence from the UN Security Council at all. They want to get this war started before they come back with any type of evidence. And they do have time, because the UN Security Council says that this is going to take a couple of weeks for this evidence to come out. And we're realizing that we are going to definitely see a false flag if Congress votes no, and we will see something definitely happen. Now, we are getting reports in now that with the U.S. and allies actively considering military action against the Syrian regime, the U.S. There is great possibility that Syria, and now they're including Iran, will strike back at the U.S. with cyber weapons. And this goes on to say that Iran is suspected of attacking the Saudi oil company and effectively wrecking 30,000 computers. Iran is also thought to be behind one of the largest coordinated attacks that disrupted or crashed dozens of U.S. banks' websites last fall. And there is another report, and this goes to it could be what the FBI was talking about where they came out with the private sector advisory on 9/11 about cyber threats on all financial institutions. A Muslim hacker group is telling everyone, all the Muslims, to participate in bringing down America and Israeli websites on September 11th. Now, I don't know what Israel has to do with September 11th here because it happened in America, but they were connected somehow, but who knows? It calls on Americans and Israelis to expect an attack of some kind on September 11th. And it goes on to say, America, Israel, we will show you. And this could be what the FBI is reporting about. Again, this will be a false flag, and we know that we're looking at some type of false flag to hit during the fall, September, October, November, early winter, December. This part, something is going to happen, and we are getting many, many different warnings that something's going to happen. We do understand that the economy is eventually going to collapse. The central bankers know this. The U.S. government knows this. This is why they've been building up DHS, TSA, FEMA. This is why they're getting this war started, to cover up the entire collapse, to try to maintain it. They're doing everything they can to cover up what is coming, and they're building the propaganda to let everyone know that everything is going to be okay. The economy is recovering. Things are looking great, and people are going to be very surprised when this event hits and they blame it on another country, and people are going to be shocked, surprised, and they're not going to understand what's really going on here, and they're going to want war with whatever country hits America with these events. And this is not going to turn out well, and at this point it's starting to look like they will need a false flag event to get this war started, because the Congress at this point, if they are listening to the people, the American people, with the petitions that are being signed, with the polls coming out saying the American people are against this war, and for Congress to say yes, Congress then needs to step down because they are not speaking for the people at this point. But if Congress does vote yes, Americans will be very angry with Congress doing this. War will get started. If they vote no, we will see a false flag, and we will be going to war anyhow. And the president at this point will say, if the Congress does vote no, he could blame this on the Congress, saying, see, if you listened to me, our forces wouldn't have gotten attacked, or the financial system wouldn't have been attacked, and we wouldn't be going through this collapse right now. And now look what has happened, and I need to take charge because America has been attacked, and this will turn into a full-blown war here. And again, everyone needs to be prepared. Everyone needs to get ready. I've said this countless times, and if you haven't started, I would do it now. You have a small window right now to start purchasing gold and silver. I do not sell any gold or silver. I have no connections with anyone that does. But again, gold and silver is continually being smacked down. This is a perfect opportunity before it gets out of hand, and at that time you will not be able to get it. More importantly, I would get food, water, medical supplies, medications if you need it, and things like that. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.